Heard it? Good, Crystal. Got everybody here? Okay, I want to welcome everybody to tonight's Elk Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting. And we can have everybody take their seats. The board did meet in closed session, and the following action was taken with principals. Sandra Brown, the principal of Samuel Kennedy Elementary School. Jason Campbell, principal at Edna Beatty Elementary School. Megan Drone Jones, principal at Ellen Carr Costello Elementary School. Jack Fiera, principal at Carroll Elementary School. Katie Hedrick, principal at John Reith Elementary School. Catherine Vaughn Hewson, principal at Elliott Ranch Elementary School. Juan Harecki, principal at Cosumnes Oaks High School. And Toby Page, principal at Calvine Continuation School. That was a lot of appointments, new assignments. Congratulations to everybody. Also, the board, we had unanimous vote in favor of approving resolution number 6 to adopt the proposed charges to place an immediate unpaid suspension and dismiss on employee number 13884. Also, the board had voted unanimous on resolution 4 in favor of approving a non-reemployment of temporary certificated employee number 120172, effective 7/15/2019. Today's meeting is being video recorded and is available on the district's YouTube channel. And the blue cards are available on the outside of the boardroom if anyone wishes to address the board. If you wish to address the board, complete it and hand a copy to the staff member on to my right. Please be sure to, whatever matter you want to wish to address is put on the agenda. Okay, I'd like to call for our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Murray, if you can come up and give us the pledge.
Thank you, President Madison. Ready, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, do I have any blue cards? No public? Okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Ms. Albiani.
Call for a motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 38.
So moved.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, discussion item, Mr. Pierce, Elk Grove Unified School District Community Facilities District. Oh, I'm sorry. I got some bargaining unit. Hold on one second, because we have a kind of a new member. Bargaining units, any comments or? Nothing, Rick? Okay. All right, Mr. Pierce, go ahead.
Thank you, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. This is an annual item the board will recall. It pertains to CFD number 1, in this case for the 2019-20 tax year. where the board will approve the tax roll for CFD number 1 and the associated tax rates within the Mello-Roos. This includes the adoption of the same tax that has been in place since 1998 in CFD number 1. I do want to share with the board tonight, in your report, you'll see the actual projected tax report for the 1920 tax year. The tax revenues are projected to decline by just over 1% in the coming fiscal year. To put that into perspective for you, though, that tax base is well over $15 million, and it's about a $190,000 revenue decline. That is due to what we call the 3- and 5-year plan. And what that means is if a development receives entitlements prior to final map, but sits stagnant for a 3-year period, it goes to a planned rate. And then if it sits stagnant for another 5 years, it goes back to whatever the underlying tax rate was before those entitlements were put in place. This was something that a lot of people never saw developers taking advantage of. And although we've had a tremendous amount of growth in our district, especially in the northern and southern regions, believe it or not, there are still developments that are still dealing with the housing crisis and have not improved those plans. In other words, they haven't turned them into final maps or built homes. So those are actually declining in terms of their overall tax, which is having that effect. We think that's going to play out in the next couple of years, but obviously we're adding additional homes throughout our district that's offsetting that decline. So this will come back to you before your August 13th board meeting for your formal approval of the ordinance, and then we deliver that to the Sacramento County Auditor's Office no later than August 16th. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. President, you are also inclined to ask if there's any members of the public who have any questions about the ordinance tonight.
Are there any board members? No. Okay. Any questions from the public at this time? Okay, seeing none, so we will present this to the board for adoption in the August 13th, 2019 regular board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, you can stay up. I guess we'll talk about the fare-free transit for Sacramento youth.
So I have a couple of guests on a couple of items tonight, and I didn't want to curse myself and explain to them how lucky they are to be at an August board meeting, or else they'd be lucky to be presenting by 9 o'clock tonight. But nonetheless, I told them to be here at 6 o'clock sharp. So I communicated this with the board previously through a board communication. It's been something that I've had the honor of working with both the City of Sacramento staff as well as the Sacramento Regional Transit District on. But in short, I don't want to steal any of the thunder of my guests tonight. So I have Claudia Jason, who's here tonight with the City of Sacramento, and also Jamie Adelman, who's with Sacramento Regional Transit District. So this is a partnership where those two entities have been working together for quite some time to establish what I'm referring to as the Fare-Free Transit Program for Sacramento youth. The initiative between the city and SAC-RT is intended to increase opportunities for students by offering free fare for all the students grade K-12 who live within the city of Sacramento and or attend a school that's physically located in the city of Sacramento. So administration has been coordinating with both of these ladies for some time now to try to facilitate this program, whereby all Elk Grove Unified School District students who reside in the city or again attend a school physically located in the city are going to receive the opportunity to receive a free SAC-RT pass. So it's an exciting program. It's a great opportunity for our students and our families in all, and again, at the in the vein of stealing some of their thunder, over 100,000 students in the city of Sacramento are going to be eligible for this program. For Elk Grove Unified, it pertains to about 13,000 of our students who would receive free transit on Sacramento Regional Transit. So with that, I will turn it over to Jamie and Claudia, and they will share information with you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Claudia Jason, and I work with Councilmember Jay Chenier, who was the champion of this effort to provide fare-free transit to all Sacramento youth who live within the city limits or attend a school within the city limits. In addition, he championed this to help homeless youth as well as foster youth who will automatically be grandfathered in and don't have to meet either of those requirements. I wanted to start by stepping back a little bit to help you understand where this came from, because it didn't come from left field. The city of Sacramento in December of 2017 passed what we're calling the Citywide Youth Development Campaign Plan. And what that plan does, guides the city on how to invest its limited dollars to support children and youth, both city-run programs and with nonprofits that they contract with. There's a set of goals in there that the city will begin to work toward, and this idea of providing fare, free transit is just one step towards helping children have better outcomes overall in the city of Sacramento. As you see, it's a partnership between SacRT and the city, as well as a bunch of people who've been working very hard behind the scenes. Next slide. How do I do it? Thank you. So basically, you've heard some of this, but just to review very quickly, the way this works is that the city of Sacramento has committed to provide $1 million to SacRT to cover any lost revenues as a result of this. In addition, this will be good for 1 year, this pass that the youth will have, and they can actually use it any time of the day, any day of the week, and any month of the year. So what we like to say is that we're trying to provide youth with opportunities to expand their horizons in all kinds of ways, not only getting to school on time, but also going to their extracurricular activities. If they're a high school youth, go to their internship. And if they're a family who wants to ride into Sacramento and go see a movie or something like that, it just lowers all those barriers and in the end provides an opportunity for young people to succeed. We're hoping, well, we know that this has become a model for some other cities in the region. As we presented this to the board at SacRT, we heard a lot of interest from other cities in the region, and Jamie can tell you more about that. But we think that it's a great idea. Actually, nationwide, there are several cities that are doing this. Washington, D.C. is the closest one that parallels what we're doing, but our reach is much, much larger than Washington, D.C. So you're going to be part of a cutting-edge program. We're very excited about that. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for your time tonight and listening to our exciting new program. I'm Jamie Adelman. I work for Sacramento Regional Transit District, and the slide that you have before you here is a map of the Sacramento area. It's a little bit hard to see, I apologize for that, but the yellow shaded area is the area covered by the city of Sacramento. So all the students in that area will have availability to this pass if they go to a school there or live there like we've previously mentioned. The pink area is the rest of SacRT's transit area that we cover with our bus fixed route, on demand, and light rail service. We are actively working with City of Citrus Heights, Rancho Cordova, Folsom, and the county for the unincorporated county to make this go district-wide. So we're really hoping that not only can we reach the 100,000 students that we mentioned for the Sacramento area, but the 250,000 that SacRT covers in our entire district. One thing that we always want to talk about when we're talking about having our kids on the bus or the light rail is their safety. SacRT has really focused on this effort over the past 3 years. You can see that from 2017 to 18, our crime rates dropped 18%, and from 16 to 17, they were down 28%. This has been a huge focus for us because not only for the kids, we want all of our passengers to feel safe. One of the things that we've done to improve our security is add cameras. We've got cameras on every single bus, every single light rail train, and every single light rail station. So if a child was to get on a bus and got lost or wasn't supposed to be there, we would be able to pull video footage, see what was happening on the bus, be able to dispatch a supervisor or a SacRT police officer to be able to assist and help track the child through the system or provide them assistance. Another way to prove our dedication to security was our award that we received from the TSA this year for the National Gold Standard Award for Security. This is a very prestigious award that was only given to 7 transit agencies in the nation this year, and SacRT was one of the recipients. So I think that's a great demonstration of what we try to do to improve the safety and security of our system. I'll turn it back over to Claudia for this one.
I've touched on some of these. One thing I want to say is previously SAC-RT initiated a couple programs that impacted youth. You may have heard about the $20 monthly pass for students that was dropped down from a much higher fee, as well as a special summer rate for young people. And SAC-RT definitely saw a large uptake on those opportunities, but we know that in many communities that even $20, $15, it's still a barrier to entry. And so number one, we are going to reduce the financial burden on these families and on their students. Number two, we want to make sure they have ways to get to all the wonderful things that not only happen in the classroom, but outside of the classroom. And finally, we know from studies that if young people start riding transit at a very young age, it's more likely that they'll continue riding through adulthood. So this is a long-term effort, and we know that it's going to pay off down the line, and we're ready to stick with it as long as possible. And finally, as we all know, public transit helps reduce the carbon footprint, ensures that our climate is going to be healthier in the future. In terms of the larger region, we know, again, from studies that there will be an increase in ridership on SAC-RT. There will be an opportunity for schools to see an uptick in ADA, which in turn brings more revenues into the district. We know that, particularly in the city of Sacramento, we have a focus on inclusive economic development. There's a very sharp focus in all that the city is doing around that, and we believe that this will help contribute toward that success. As always important, we need to build partnerships with as many institutions and agencies as possible. No one city school district can do it alone. We want to make sure we work together. And again, we're going to make sure we have a greener climate as we move forward.
So I'm not sure if you all have heard about SAC-RT Forward, but it is a comprehensive service analysis that SAC-RT is doing of our entire bus network. This is the first time we've done this kind of big analysis in about 20 years, so it's a major effort that we've been undertaking. The new routes and the new schedules will deploy on September 8th, and we actually have the website that's listed here so that you can go and see the new routes, see how it's going to affect your schools. If you're a current rider, if you're a new rider, be able to figure out what route you need to take. Claudia mentioned this before, so when we started talking about this program, we looked at other transit agencies in other cities to see if anybody else was doing a program like this, to see if we could get ideas and tips on how to roll something like this out. The closest that we found was Washington, D.C., that provides something, unlimited trips year-round with little to no eligibility requirements associated with the program. They're reaching about 90,000. Like we said, we have 100,000 for the city of Sacramento, and we're hoping to get that to 250 if we can include our entire district. Last item I want to touch on is the actual fare media and what it's going to look like and how we're going to do this. So every student will receive the sticker that you see on the top left there. It says annual student pass. That sticker will be affixed to their student ID, and that will be their entry onto bus or light rail service or our Smart Ride, which is our on-demand service. It's applicable to any of the services that SAC-RT offers except for paratransit service. This sticker, it has some fraud protection built into it. The picture to the top right shows you if the student were to peel the sticker off, it will leave that void behind. So this kind of does two things for us. It offers fraud protection so the kids can't pull the stickers off and give it to somebody else. It also gives the parents an ability to opt out of the program. If they don't want their child to have the student pass, they can simply remove the sticker from the student ID. So it's an easy way for parents to be able to say, no, I don't want you to ride, I don't feel comfortable with it, so let's just remove the sticker. If at a later date they change their mind, I'm sure there can be some communication between the parents and the schools, and new stickers can be deployed. The schools will be given an extra stock, I should say the district, and then we're figuring out implementation from there. So that like new students coming in, or if a student loses their student ID, which we know they're going to do, there will be extra sticker stock available to be able to get the stickers back out in the kids' hands.
So in closing, we just wanted to share this information. I think we've talked a lot about the eligible student criteria, but again, any student who attends a school physically located in the city of Sacramento, or any student who lives in the city of Sacramento but might attend a school that's not physically located in the city will be eligible. Another perk that we saw as a district was the fact that they were willing to give the free fare passes to any homeless student regardless of what school they attend, as well as any foster student throughout our district will be eligible for the free pass. We've talked to Mr. Ross and his staff in implementing this program and getting all of those students their passes. There's well over 1,000 of those students, close to 1,200 that will receive those. But again, it's 13,000 students in our district that would be eligible across 25 schools throughout our district that would be participating. So want to thank the board for their time. I want to thank Superintendent Hoffman as we've dealt with the logistics and had the conversation points. I need to thank Mr. Michael Sanchez in Transportation, who did the kickoff meeting with me and Claudia, and we've talked a lot about this in terms of he had all of those questions around safety, and we had those conversations early on. But I also need to thank Kim Williams, who's in the planning department, who's been able to provide us all the student data down to the name of the child who's eligible to participate and what schools they attend. I need to thank Ms. Bindi Graywall and Mr. Craig Murray. They've been very helpful. We still have some work to do as we roll this out. There's some logistical issues, but they've been, everybody's been very helpful to try to make this happen. So Claudia and Jamie have been great to eliminate any barriers and any struggles that we are having as an entity in rolling this out. I think the board would agree that our number one priority is safety for our students. But in the face of that is we didn't want to just unilaterally take away the ability of these parents and these students to receive these passes and to give the option to them. So we have crafted a letter that would go out to all the parents of all the eligible children that will explain the program and what the student would be receiving and how they would receive it, give them an opportunity to first to opt out, and then also notifying them if any point in time they decide they do not want to participate in the program, if they haven't opted out, they can just simply remove the pass from the student's ID. And just another example of some of those minor logistical issues. Come to find out, not all of our elementary students leave the campus with their student ID. There's only certain times when they need it on campus, so it remains there because elementary kids lose student IDs. The entity that provides all of our student IDs, we have 2 vendors who do that, have just graciously agreed to give every student 2 IDs, one that stays at the school, one that goes home with them, free of charge, no expense, that it would have this bus pass on it. Again, if the parent doesn't want to participate and they don't opt out, they can remove that at any point in time. So I need to thank all those district staff that have been working on that. We're going to continue to work on that. We didn't want to get the cart before the horse, working with the site administration before we came to you with this proposal. I think it's accurate in saying that Sac City Unified has already adopted the program. Is that an accurate statement? It's in process as well. But I also just need to thank Sacramento Regional Transit. Jamie Adelman's been great. And then the city of Sacramento and Claudia, they've been wonderful to work with. They're very committed to this. We were working with Claudia last week while she was on vacation on the East Coast, but she stopped what she was doing to have a conference call with me and Jamie for an hour. And again, it wasn't mentioned, but the city of Sacramento is funding $1 million to this program from their budget to offset the revenue loss that SAC-RT will be realizing. So happy to answer any questions that the board might have, and I'm sure Jamie and Claudia will be as well.
Okay, we'll start. Crystal. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. As I'm hearing all the work that's put into it, I'd like to thank the district staff and Sacramento Regional Transit. For me, I see this as a positive for some of our students and families to be able to access the public transportation in that way. I know at some of the community colleges and the CSU systems, they do give the students the pass once they pay part of their tuition fees. And I've seen that being very resourceful for students going to and from. And I think of our high school students who may be starting that journey, who are recently graduating and going to be going to a local community college here, and them having that opportunity to be transported from their home directly to the college, whether it saves them a parking pass per se. I know for myself as a student, I rode light rail, I rode the bus and things just to make sure I was able to get to where I needed to go, different places. I'm interested to see in the data that will be collected from this. I'm hopeful and wondering if you will be able to survey the families after they utilize the service to gather feedback on how often or how frequently their household is utilizing it or their student, but also to know what they're utilizing it for. If it's mainly for the route for school, but also the extracurricular activities, or if it's internships. I think that's really crucial, so we can know where the highest need areas are as well. And I'm hopeful that we can collect that data as we move forward, and also the feedback from the families. I'd really be interested. I do have questions regarding the safety concern. I'm glad to hear that you're addressing that with the camera, and you'll be able to access the police services as needed. I'm just hoping that there's a way to coordinate with the district as well, in case if there was, for some reason, a student got on there and for some reason didn't make it to school in the lower grade levels, how that would be addressed, for example. So,
Okay, Mr. Perez?
Yes, I'm also am interested regarding studies outcomes, how it affects a student in our community, and also how it affects us ADA-wise, because I know that's going to be a big impact for our schools. So how many students in Valley High School area, middle school, and elementaries will be most likely? Did you already do a forecast of this? That would be possibly participating?
I don't have the exact breakdown by school. I just know the
Or the
overall
total,
number of
that
students.
city limits?
Every student at Valley High would have the opportunity of participating in this.
But also the middle school?
Every school that's physically located
Elementary?
in the city.
Okay. So I like to see those numbers right now, or sometime in the future. Also, how would it impact our ADA also, pre and post testing, whatever, we could have that, what's going on right now prior to this. Did you mention that parents ride free also? No.
No.
Would they get a discount?
So, no, so parents, if they are, depending on their employer, can receive a lot of subsidies. If they work for a government agency or a state
Right.
agency, they can receive subsidies that way. But as of right now, there's no discount associated with this for the parents or anybody outside of the TK through 12 range.
So when government pays for employees, I know they do for the state of California, how much does that cost, per individual?
So it depends on what they purchase, but the state generally will subsidize up to, I want to say it's $65 or 75% of the purchase. So if our monthly pass is $100, so the state would pay $65 and the employee would then pay the difference of the $35. They could also do it in different amounts, loading cash value onto a Connect card, and they get their percentage subsidy that way.
Because that might be a big factor in which elementary students will participate or catch the bus. I don't think any parent would let a youngster on the bus solo, but if a parent would, it might improve our ADA, because I know a lot of working parents or sisters or relatives might go on the bus with a child and to that elementary, and plus we get ADA, and so it might be beneficial for the school district, maybe pay for the parent or the family member to do that. Do you know of any studies that's been throughout other areas?
I don't know of anything like
Or
that
school
being
districts?
done. We are absolutely willing to work on that for you, because we would love to. That's a SAC-RT's goal, is to increase our ridership. The more people we can get onto the transit system, the more people we can get off the roads.
Right,
And
right.
it improves funding for SAC-RT, it improves funding for the schools. It's better for the government agencies all around.
Right.
So that's something we absolutely want to work on. To answer the question about the study, if I may, is that okay? Sure. Okay.
Sure.
SAC-RT in the city of Sacramento is going to be working with a researcher from University of Austin, Texas, and we're focusing that study first on Sacramento City Unified School District, because they have a good base population for us to look at. And so one of the reasons we're not starting the program until October 1st is because we need a baseline of ridership before this pass goes into effect. So the time period, August 15th through September 30th, kids will still have to purchase that $20 monthly pass. And we'll be studying ridership based during that time period. After that, then the project or the fare goes into effect, and we'll continue to monitor ridership that way. SAC-RT on all of our buses, we have our fare boxes. We're going to establish a specific button for this fare type. So we'll be able to tell how many kids are getting on with this specific fare type, and we'll be tracking that and our ridership, and we can track ridership by route and by region. So we'll be able to tell where kids are going, if we're seeing an increase in student ridership on certain routes or in certain areas. So we will absolutely be looking into that.
Okay. Discipline of students, how are we going to deal with that?
That's a great question. So kids can get a little unruly at times, right? So SAC-RT has its standard rules for riding on the bus. If at any time a student breaks the SAC-RT rules and it escalates to a level where they need to be removed from a train or a bus, we potentially would have to remove the sticker from their student ID card and make them ineligible for the process, because we have to keep the system safe for all of our riders and not just the students. So that will be on a probably like case-by-case basis, but if there are disruptions, potentially a student could be removed from the program.
So is there an appeal process, or you would have, who would handle that?
It would be like our road supervisors or our bus operators. We have road supervisors that are dispatched throughout our entire service area. So if a bus operator is having an issue with a student on a bus, they will contact a road supervisor, and the road supervisor will come address the issue. If it's on a train, we have our transit ambassadors that are riding and are stationed at different stations. So if it's a problem at a train, again, the operator would signal to somebody that there's an issue, and they would have support come and help with the situation.
And would that impact your ability to put more than 2 bikes in the front of the bus?
Does it impact it? No, that's still our capacity. Yeah, for buses, because we have a limited space in the front of the bus. But on light rail, we do have a little more room, wiggle room for bicycles.
Okay. I think that's it.
And to be clear too, Mr. Prez, and for the full board's understanding, these are things that already happen every day. We have students throughout our district that are already riding SAC-RT. The only difference is in this case, they'd have a free pass as opposed to paying for it. In some cases, the district is actually paying for some of those passes. So these things already happen. These are real life examples that happen each and every day. In terms of the younger students riding, I would say the vast majority may not be even riding them, getting the pass for the purposes of getting to and from school. All of our elementary schools are neighborhood schools. We hope that this encourages some ridership, where parents are already buying passes for the full family. Now, if they have one student or more, they're not having to pay that bus pass. So there's huge perks there. But some of these real life examples, again, happen each and every day with students riding the bus right now.
I had one more question, but I'll wait till the end, okay? Somebody might ask. Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay. I thank you so much. This is a great opening of access. I think I had 2 things that hadn't been mentioned. Many things have been mentioned I don't need to talk about again. I'm kind of excited it starts in November, because in the beginning of the year, as a parent, you are sent so much paperwork. And if you are just sent home a bus pass, it needs to be very noticeable what's happening. As a parent of 4 kids, I sign a lot of papers that I don't read very well. So we have a walking school bus program when we do schools, and that's a thought possibly for our schools, that there would be a fingerprinted person responsible that would be willing to take kids on a bus route. So just as a suggestion for elementary school. We already have that program we do with walking school buses certain days, and it could apply to a bus ride as well, which would give, I know as a parent of a young child, if I knew that Mrs. Smith was riding the bus with them, I would feel more comfortable. So that might be an option. I think this is amazing for the idea of free museum days, for going to story times at libraries, for access to books, for access to enrichment programs that we find are lacking in some of our students. I just appreciate this opportunity you're providing them, and I hope our parents and our families will recognize that and take advantage of it.
And Ms. Albiani, just if the board approves the MOU that's before you tonight, we will be enlisting the support and help of Ms. Pinkerton. Parents will be hearing about this in all manners, so social media, via email, and then letters mailed home and letters sent home with the student. We want every parent to be eyes wide open with regard to the opportunity.
Well, okay,
Ms. Espinosa?
First off, I want to say thank you so much. It's not every day we hear that someone's willing to spend $1 million to benefit our students. So many thanks to the City of Sacramento and to SacRT. We really appreciate it. In my line of work, I tend to work at the intersection of education and some other policy area often. And I'm sad to say most of the time, those who are not familiar with education just fail to take into account what it's like to work in our world, to work with children. But I really see some signs here that you guys have been really thoughtful about that, and I appreciate it. But in that view, I do have a couple of questions, like my colleagues, trying to anticipate the questions we might get from parents. Is there a minimum age at which someone can ride alone without parental supervision?
Currently, no, there is no minimum age. Kids can ride free up until 5, and then they need a pass from there.
Okay.
I will say that we're talking about doing some sensitivity training with our bus operators to where if a really small child did happen to wander onto a bus, they know how to properly interact with that child and kind of guide them, direct them on where they're going or why really they're there. We kind of have to be careful with that, right? Because we don't want to impose on a student that does know what they're doing and rides frequently. But we do recognize that the lower age children most likely probably won't be riding alone. We're hoping that they have an older sibling, maybe somebody in high school or middle school that will accompany them and enable both of them to get to school together.
Okay, good stuff. And I don't know who is the best person to answer this, but what will be the process for distribution of the stickers for student IDs?
So right now the process will be, and we're still working through this, we need to notify principals to make them aware of it. But from our perspective right now, if you're a student who's eligible that doesn't attend a school physically located, again, your parents are going to be notified. You're going to get a letter sent home to you as well. Those students will most likely have the opportunity to go to a local public library with their student ID to get the pass. We can also talk about distributing those here, but it's 2,700 students. So not knowing what percentage of those 2,700 students might want to participate, it could be a little difficult. If you live in the city of Sacramento, the bus pass will be distributed with your student ID.
Okay,
That's the discussion or the plan as of now.
okay, thank you. Just a couple more comments. So as Ms. Albiani said, I remember a couple of different times when we've been talking about our work opportunity program. So in our district, if you don't know, we have over 60 career academies, and we're working all the time to improve that connection between school and career. Summer internships, all of those things. So I remember frequently hearing that lack of transportation is one of the biggest impediments for students to get to their jobs or their internships. So this is very exciting. I've also sat with our folks who work with homeless students and foster youth, and this is just one more thing that they could potentially not have to worry about and focus on other needs that those students have. So I just very much appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Mr. Fortuna.
Thank you. Already been stated by my colleagues, but thank you. It's a great offering for kids. I just have a follow-up question. It'd be yours, Rob. When students ride EG buses and are disciplined and removed from the buses, there's a process that we then initiate.
Right.
What will we do if we find out there are kids eliminated from riding RT?
So I think, and quite frankly, hearing Jamie speak to that, I think what we will have to put into place is having them have a point of contact with us should a student be disciplined. Because again, through their graciousness, we're going to have a slew of passes for any student who loses their pass. So if I'm a student who got disciplined and lose my pass, I just tell my principal or I come to the district office and I get another pass. So we want to know who those kids are.
Yeah.
And I would be way out of my lane to talk about discipline of students and what they do on an RT bus and whether or not we have any authority of that. I know it's to and from school, but I'll get loose pretty quick, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and to me, there would be issues with respect to the whys and what behavioral changes we can, incorporate into their daily programs and all. So I do. It's important that we know. All right, thank you.
Mr. Hoffman, you had a comment? Oh, okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead. One.
Two.
There's
Actually,
one.
two, I'm sorry. Now, you mentioned some cities within Sacramento County, but I didn't hear you say Elk Grove. Are you talking to Elk Grove City?
That's an excellent question. So Elk Grove right now is a separate transit agency altogether. They are owned and operated by the city of Elk Grove. SAC-RT just muddied the waters a little bit by taking over the contracted services for them. So we are actually their contractor now as of 7/1
that's what I
operating
heard.
their service. And we're hoping that moves towards an annexation. We have been working with the city of Elk Grove and reaching out to their city manager and obviously their city council, because we have some common council members there, to encourage them to participate in the program, but they will have to determine whether or not they can afford to participate in the program and figure out really what their student fare revenue number is and see if the city could afford to cover that on E-Trans behalf. So as of right now, it's SAC-RT only.
Right, okay. And then the second question is, what role is our local air resources region playing as a partnership in this supporting role?
In this project specifically, they're not, but the Sacramento Area Air Quality Management District does provide a lot of grant funding to SAC-RT,
Right,
which helps us replace any diesel or gas vehicles with CNG, and then they're also helping us really move towards electric vehicles, which is the new goal and standard set by the state of California. Our fleet has to be 100% electric by 2035, I believe. So, and currently we have 200 40-foot buses in our fleet and about another 60 to 70 cutaway, so 30-foot and smaller vehicles that we're working on transitioning to electric vehicles.
So, I mean, yeah, so the reason why I asked, so I knew you mentioned the funding, the grants and all that, getting people on board to buses. So, I mean, so I imagine within the next couple of years, you probably apply for those type of fundings? Or could we as partnership do that with you?
Absolutely. If you know a funding source that would enable you to be able to fund this program for the rest of your kids, we are all in. But
Still in for our transportation.
Right.
I'm not giving the SAC-RT. One of the problems that we run into, and I'm sure the district does as well, a lot of new funding sources want innovative, new, fancy projects, and they don't want to deal with the core issues of the district, your district, our district, which is aging infrastructure, state of good repair, and figuring out ways to lower fares to get more people on the buses and on transit. So we're constantly looking for opportunities for that, but we are absolutely open to partnerships. We're trying to work with Twin Rivers because Twin Rivers has a big population of students that are under the poverty line. So we're trying to figure out what we can do with them to partner with the district to make sure that all of their kids are covered. So we're absolutely open to working with the school districts. If there are kids that don't qualify for the program, if we can figure out a funding source to make all the kids covered.
Thank you.
I just had one last comment. When we're talking about passing out passes, I encourage us to set ourselves up for success with some sort of training or education to our students of expectations on a bus. Students who haven't ridden a bus don't know what is expected of them, and I think we would be doing them a disservice if we don't include an expectation lesson.
Good point, thank you.
Okay, very good report. Just echo a lot of my colleagues' comments. I think we got notes on it. We'll probably have further BCs on that, Rob, I'm sure. And we have a lot of concern, particularly about the younger kids and from a safety standpoint, liability, et cetera. One of the question I had was the part of the county that says City of Sacramento. Rob, when we talk about Florin High School, which is technically, I guess, in the county,
Right.
but they go down, Florin Road and,
So we're able to identify a lot of our, and we've shared this actually, of the 25, 14 of the 25 aren't physically located in the city, but have a number of students who do physically live in the city. So
Right.
those students will be eligible.
okay.
And we know, we can identify those students down to the name, the address, and we'll be contacting those students and letting them know.
Okay, I was just curious of that
Yeah,
some of them
good
don't,
question.
particularly with the open enrollments and where they
Right.
live. that
Yeah,
type of thing.
if you live in the city and you might have a childcare intra-district transfer to a school that's deep in Elk Grove, you're still eligible to participate.
Okay. All right, so we look forward to a lot of further discussions on this as well, too. So I want to move for a motion to approve the fair media distribution agreement with the Sacramento Regional Transit District for the distribution of free fair transit passes to all Elk Grove Unified School District students who reside in the city of Sacramento and/or attend schools physically located in Sacramento.
So
in the city of
moved.
Sacramento.
Oops,
It's been moved by Ms.
Titus.
Sheriff Nancy, okay, second by Ms. Perez, Ms. Perez, Ms. Fortuna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, ladies, for the report, too. Very good. Rob is still up with James Rutter School Swimming Pool Center lease agreement.
Thank you again, Mr. Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. I have a couple of guests here tonight that will help in the presentation, and I'd like to invite Mr. Vince King, who's with the Southgate Recreation and Park District. The item before you tonight is a lease agreement extension with the Southgate Recreation and Park District to continue the lease of the property at James Rutter Middle School for the purpose of an aquatic center. I want to remind the board that for the last 50 years, our partnership with Southgate Recreation and Park District has been a wonderful collaborative partnership. We have teamed up in a number of ways to benefit the greater community that we all serve, both within their district and our district. Currently, we're working together to write a grant to submit to the state under the provisions of Proposition 68, which will allow Southgate Recreation and Park District to revitalize, rebuild, repurpose the James Rutter Swim Center, as well as some other improvements to their park and their trail system, and Mr. King will speak a little bit to that. I want to note that you see the grant, or the lease extension, excuse me, in your packet tonight, and it's worded that way specifically because of the requirements of the grant. So this agreement that we're operating under dates back to 1970. There's a lot of hopes and a lot of desire that we would like to see the James Rutter Swim Center. I think Mr. Hoffman and I both swam in that pool many, many, many years ago. I learned to swim in that pool. So it's important to me personally, but I know it's very important to that James Rutter and that greater South Sacramento community who have utilized it for a number of years. So we're very hopeful for this grant opportunity. It does not have a match requirement. We're working very diligently on that. I think Mr. King can speak to that. I want to let the board know that even though Southgate Recreation and Park District is the grantee, they have partnered with us, and Audrey Russick has been working very closely with Mr. King. Audrey is your grant writer. She's really good at what she does, so we've partnered with them to put forward the best grant possible. So the agreement is written the way it is before you tonight in the event that the grant is funded, or in the event that the grant is not funded. If the grant's not funded, we're going to be back before you, rolling up our sleeves, going back to work to try to figure out something to make that pool what it should be. But there's been a lot of community involvement at this point. Southgate Recreation and Park District has done a great job of engaging the local community there to give input on what they would hope to see with the swim center. And so they've been able to build that into the future planning. Because it's our property, we would actually be very involved in the construction and the approvals of that project. So this is a true partnership. It's been a lot of work. I need to thank the Southgate Recreation and Park District Board. I need to thank Ward Winchell, who is the general manager of the district, Vince King, who's with me tonight. Sandra Montgomery's also in the audience. She's been a person that we've worked very closely with throughout the years as our swim teams and aquatic teams have used their various pools. Also, Mr. Richard Lincoln and Juanita Cano. Again, I want to thank the board for their time. I know this is an important project to them. Obviously, Superintendent Hoffman, Rod Edmonston has been very helpful on this project, as well as Audrey Russick and everybody in facilities. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. King just to talk to you a little bit about the happenings over the last couple of months as we prepare to submit the grant later in August.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the board and Rob and Audrey for all the great work they've been doing to help us along in this process. And thank you for 50 years of partnership at the Rutter Swim Center. It's been a great community asset, and we look forward to hopefully continuing that in the future. Every year for the previous 5 years since 2017, there have been over 900 students that have learned to swim at the Rutter Swim Center, and over 4,000 students that come to participate, or citizens that come to participate for recreation swimming. So that's nearly 200,000 residents that we estimate have used the Rutter Swim Center since it's opened its doors in 1970. Here in Sacramento, we're a river community. Teaching kids to swim is really important. CDC lists drowning as the #1 cause for injury and death amongst young children. So at the Park District, we believe that teaching water safety skills to our youth is an incredibly important resource to keep them safe in their daily lives. And it's an important thing for the community to bring people together, particularly in an area like the Rutter area where the neighbors may be challenged with mobility, don't have the resources to travel to the other pools nearby. So that's all the more important to have it as a neighborhood resource. The Southgate Recreation Park District Board unfortunately had to make the decision to close the Rutter Swim Center due to 50 years of needed repairs that go beyond just irregular maintenance. The facility was built at a time that didn't accommodate for how standards and pools have evolved. And so it's just not up to the standards that are needed to keep a safe operating aquatic facility. And that was part of the reason why our district board prioritized the Rutter Swim Center and making improvements to the park nearby as our priority project for applying for Proposition 68 grant funding. Proposition 68 was passed by the voters in 2018, and a large portion of that was $650 million that will be used to go towards building new parks, renovating existing parks, and expanding existing parks. The maximum grant amount is $8.5 million. And one of the really important things about Proposition 68 is it really directs funding towards areas of that are disadvantaged and in high need. In order to qualify for the grant, you have to have a median income below $51,000 a year, or have less than 3 acres of park space per 1,000 residents in the area. In the Rutter area, there's approximately 8,000 residents within half a mile of the park and the swim center. And the acres of park space per 1,000 residents is 0.85, so less than 1 acre per 1,000 residents. The median income in that area is just under $35,000 a year, which is actually below 60% below the statewide median, which qualifies this area as a severely disadvantaged neighborhood. And for grant purposes, it makes us eligible for 20% of the grant funding has to go to severely disadvantaged neighborhoods. The proposal that we're putting forward in the grant is to do three things: renovate and expand the existing swim center, make improvements to the park, and extend the Florin Creek Trail. We believe, based upon the competitiveness of our project and the demographics of the area, that we will have a competitive proposal. And as Rob mentioned, even if we aren't awarded funding this first round in the grant, there's $255 million. There will be 2 other rounds, and after your first round, it's very good to be part of that first round because you can get some feedback on where your grant proposal may be lacking and improve it on future rounds. So we've done quite a bit of outreach. The goal with our outreach was to do a bunch of different types of meetings, both formal workshops, on the weekends and the evenings, or going to neighborhood associations, but also doing more, play-oriented meetings where we had our recreation van, which is our recreation engaging children van is what it's called, and it goes out to the park and there's a bunch of toys and various games, and we have staff that engage folks. So we did a night of that at Rutter Park and had good attendance. And we also attended, organized softball events that are going on, and a family movie night where they're showing Mary Poppins Returns. So that was a great place to just go to where residents are and get their feedback. We developed a questionnaire with wonderful assistance from Audrey Russick in your grant writing office, as well as many folks that helped develop a translation into different languages. We worked on a flyer that was in English, Spanish, Hmong, and Vietnamese, because those are predominant languages in the area. And the questionnaire asked about the 3 elements of the project. It asked about the pool, the park, and the trail. And it asked, for each of those, what type of recreation features would you like to see? What would you like to see for those areas to improve safety? And what would you like to see for those areas to beautify the park or the pool? In total, we had 8 meetings, and then an additional 4 board of directors meetings for our Southgate Recreation Park District. We engaged 193 people, and tonight is also qualifies as a meeting, so we're having a meeting here tonight. We met a lot of great people when we're out in the parks and at the various meetings. Got 197 detailed responses to our questionnaire. 102 of those were in person, and 95 were on an online survey that people were able to take. Overall, the response we had was that people were disappointed that the swim center wasn't there and wasn't open this summer, but they're also very hopeful and appreciative that we're pursuing an opportunity to improve it and hopefully open it back up to the public. We tallied the responses, and for the pool, the feedback was they want shade, more shade, and shade. They would definitely want a kids area that can separate the young kids from the older kids so that they feel safe to have their younger kids present. And they wanted to have colorful art, something that brings that shows the community that it's there and it's a resource. Oftentimes, one of the things we've heard is that it was kind of far back, kind of almost hidden behind the parking areas. Some folks didn't even know it was there. We had some great quotes from some of the neighbors. One lady said that she had gone there for swim lessons for 7 kids every summer that they could afford them. A student said that she wants to have a kiddie pool place for her little siblings and also her. Expand the pool, make it bigger. Pool needs seating area, benches, etc. Folks suggested expanding programs to include water exercise programs, adult swim, senior swims, toddler swims, and teen swims. But in general, I think the consensus was folks would just like to see it made more modern, clean, so it feels welcoming. And then there was also a question in the survey that addressed location. Like I said, one of the responses was folks didn't really realize it was there, and it was a resource for them that they could use. They wanted to see improved connectivity in the neighborhood and connection with the existing park. integration with the park, baseball fields, making all the public area feel that they are uniform and even was one of the responses. For the park itself, for Southgate property, people wanted to see lighted pathways, barbecue pits, sage structures and seating, and just more sports activity areas for kids to engage in. Folks felt that they needed more benches and tables, lighting. There's only 3 lights, I think, in that park. Sports courts, barbecue. Essentially more features for children so that families feel welcome to come and be there. And then for extension of the Florin Creek Trail, the most common response was people appreciate the idea of access, that they could visit the park and the pool more often, and that they would reduce stress, that they wouldn't have to use a car. One of my favorite quotes from some of the responses was, "It helped me introduce working out to my children." And from a child in the neighborhood, he said his favorite trail was the trail from Stockton past David Reese. It's fast, and my friend lives there. So that's he's someone who's already using the trail, but could probably use it a little more if we were able to extend it. So the goals of the proposal that we're drafting is to create a safe, functional swim center that addresses the competitive and recreational needs of the Elk Grove Unified School District, as well as the community, and promote a safe walking, biking, and running as a means of health, recreation, and transportation in a very car-dominant landscape, and add desired recreation features to the park, and address another ADA acronym, which is the Americans Disability Act, accessibility within the park and all the facilities, because those definitely have to be brought up to code. In all, the goal is to bring all the resources together, foster a greater sense of community and connectedness in the Rutter area.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board, Mr. Fortuna?
Okay, thank you for the report and the information. And while everyone certainly remains hopeful that they'll be successful with the grant, my question to you, Rob, would be, if for whatever reason we're not successful, what will we do with the property?
Difficult to answer. I would hope that with or without the grant, and I think as Mr. King said, it's going to take some time before this grant's exhausted. So even if we don't win out the grant in the first cycle, we would hopefully participate in the next 2. We would have to come to a determination as to whether or not, and I certainly don't want to speak for Southgate Recreation and Park District, is if they want to just abandon the pool at that point. If that happens, then we need to fill the pool in and make use of that property.
Right.
But that's a huge hypothetical, and I certainly don't want to start any rumors, but those are conversations that we're going to have if the grant is not funded.
With respect to liability, would the agreement to be written sort of mirror what we have with Project Ride in terms of, our responsibilities for properties or accidents occur on the property?
Absolutely. The existing lease agreement has all the liabilities and everything covered in it now. I think in the modern world that we live in, that agreement was written in 1970.
Yeah.
It's obviously going to be amended either way. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Sheriff Espinoza?
No questions, just wanted to please extend our thanks to the board of the Southgate Parks and Recreation District for the partnership we've had and for their willingness to continue serving the kids that we serve together.
Thank you. Ms. Albiani?
Thank you for your presentation, and I hope it is successful and builds community. I think that's what the parks are for, and you guys are working very hard, and we appreciate it.
Ms. Perez?
I represent that area, number one. And I was kind of upset on the fact that your park district prioritized your funding for another park in another upper middle income area. So that told me that, you know, the priority, you didn't really care, or, I don't know, there's a lot of things that was going in through my head, and I talked to other people, what do you think? And, you know, and this is the way I feel. So I went about, let everybody that I knew that was in government and county, to the assembly, to the Senate, my concerns regarding this community issue, because of the fact that since I've been there, there's been deaths, drownings of youth in the South Sacramento area in the American River as a result of no swimming areas. And that's why we have a swim place out here in South Sacramento on 24th and Mac. We have an excellent swimming pool in other areas within South Sacramento, but nowhere where I call 95828 no man's land now, because we don't make the paper, we don't voice ourselves, except me and some other people. So, you know, that's where we stand right now. So I was kind of upset. I'm still upset because of that issue. You know, I'm letting you know and let my fellow board members know that. And I was trying to get some history of the old contract, and so, you know, trying to find out how it was written and how it could be amended and this and that. So as of today, I haven't seen that contract. This is the first amendment I've seen between the Elk Grove Unified School District and your organization. But I hope it, you know, what I see, you know, I hope we work more together, you know, in this issue. Because to me, that's one of the basic things of life is recreation, you know, and education. You know, it relieves stress and relieves a lot of things in park, you know, things like that. It has beneficial things to it. The trail does too. And but yet, also a big thing I've been on my mind is that, you know, we passed this bond for renovation for our schools, for a variety of projects, but yet we did not put that within the Elk Grove Unified School District plan. And maybe we need to revise our modernization bond funding program for that school, for that community. That's another alternative that we should, you know, seek out, not cement it up. You know, I don't agree with that. This community needs a pool, a recreational, first-class pool. And, you know, a long time ago, when you were there, you know, at that time, I think it was like a requirement that every child learn how to swim. and today, you know, that's a big factor. I still think that's a very important part of our curriculum. Every child in our school system should know how to swim.
Mr. Perez, can I say this? None of our schools have pools. It just so happened this is an agreement with the Southgate Recreation
Right.
where that was put in.
I understand that.
Okay, I want you to understand that.
Right.
You know, we have 9 high schools and middle schools.
Right.
There's no pools.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah, this is
But since we have one, you know, it's a joint effort. You know, we should go 50%.
Well, that's
for,
what we're trying
you
to
know,
work with the Southgate now.
Right.
So
If, you know, and the fact that filling that pool up with cement is not, to me, is not the solution.
And Mr. President,
Okay,
that's why
so, you know,
I don't want to, I didn't want to, you know, make a hypothetical
I don't want to go there.
statement.
That's
that
what I'm concerned about.
If that decision comes to pass,
Mhm.
the board would 100% be involved in that.
Mhm.
I know Ward, and I don't want to speak for Ward, who's the general manager of the district. And we don't want to purport what his board would do, and I don't want to purport what our board would do.
Exactly,
So
yes.
we're taking these steps now. We're very hopeful and optimistic about the grant. In the unfortunate reality that we don't receive the grant, there's still a lot of conversation and work that needs to happen.
Right. But, you know, like I've been there 30 years, 30 plus years, and this is not the first time that pool need major repairs. You know, I know there's a lot, I think that pump went out many times since I've been there. And so, you know, it's not new to me, this issue. It's just a matter of putting some money behind it. Yes.
We're just at a point now where the maintenance type things aren't going to get it done. I mean, the replacing the pumps and those kinds of things, the pool's just in a position, it needs to be updated, and that's going to take a renovation and basically a rebuild of it. The maintenance piece, it's just outlived its life. So the next piece is we need to figure out a way to be able to renovate it in a way, and this grant came along at the
Right.
exact right time, and the partnership has given us an opportunity to be able to provide the community exactly what they need and what you're speaking to. So it's a great opportunity, and we're going to do everything we can in the partnership to get this thing done. And if that doesn't happen, then we can have the other conversation and figure out what we do next. But I think the community meets many of the criteria. Southgate's done a great job of doing other components related to scoring high on the grant proposal, and our team is doing everything we can, and we're pretty good at writing grants. We do that work a lot, and so I think we bring something to the table that will be a benefit as well. So I'm very optimistic about this, about the opportunity.
Hold on here. I just realized something. The district does have a pool, other pool. Jesse Baker. Right? Right? So we maintain, and we rebuild that one. Think of that.
Mr.
How
Price,
much did that cost?
That pool,
Hey.
that pool is smaller than this room.
Well,
It's very
it's pretty big.
very specific to the needs of those students.
Hey, exactly. I supported that. I was there. The other issue is that you mentioned a trail. Now, are you also working with the Florida Resource Conservation District, who is kind of also in charge of that creek and conservation issues and development? And so, in partnership, have you sat down with them, or have we, as a school district, sat down with the Florida Resource Conservation District? Because there's many issues in that creek right now because the homeless are living down there, and they're polluting that creek. And so, so I was wondering what are we coordinating with the Florida, possibly who has another responsibility to monitor the creek quality?
As far as I'm aware, the Sacramento.
Yeah, it's really not on the
Part
agenda.
of the trail.
No, it's about
on
this,
the trail.
it's the
You're talking-
pool. Yeah,
Well,
it's,
he brought it up.
yeah, but he did,
Okay.
but it's not on
Ask you
our
personally
agenda.
after, okay?
Okay, you guys can get together on that, okay?
So that's what I'm concerned about. You know, I'm not sure if you knew that. That's why I'm bringing that up.
Okay.
And, okay.
All right, Crystal?
So thank you for the presentation. I as well went to Rutter Middle School, and I know I utilized the pool for different family functions too. So I was disheartening. I had been contacted by some teachers, even former teachers that are currently there as well, with their concerns with the closing of the pool. And I talked with Superintendent Hoffman, and we had discussions about it. And I'm really hopeful and glad to see this back on the agenda item, and hopeful that possibly we could get a grant to help fund the renovations that need to take place. From my understanding, I hope that we could have a backup plan scenario. So if for some reason, if whatever may be, if the cards laid out don't work in our favor, maybe we have a couple options that might be viable in the future. I just foresee that if we can strategize ahead of time, that way, if for some reason the tables were turned, then we have a backup option A. I know or backup option B, because a lot of the community has spoken, asked questions, they've been concerned as well. And I think it says a lot, and we appreciate the board, Southgate, for working forward and want to continue that partnership there. So that's just my only concern for the future. Of course, we always have to plan ahead for rainy days. So I'm very hopeful, though, that we might be eligible to apply for that grant as well.
Okay. Again, we're all hopeful. I'm like Mr. Hoffman, that I feel optimistic that we can get this grant through. That pool is, as Rob said, 50 years. I know my kids went through it too, a lot of it. So there's a lot of memory in there. Just, it's unfortunate, just to Mr. Perez's point of view, that 20 years ago where the Southgate Recreation, the folks could have looked into it a little bit harder on renovations and things like that, and instead letting it get to the point where boom, it's closed. So that part is a little disturbing. So with that though, we're hopeful we can continue with it. I'm going to go ahead and move for a motion to approve the lease agreement extension through June 30th, 2029 with the Southgate Recreation and Park District for the operation of the James Rutter Middle School Swimming Pool Center.
Okay, Mr. President, I approve the lease agreement extension.
I'd like to second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to call on Mr. Doug Phillips on the Elk Grove School District Annual Service Delivery Budget for the special
Good evening,
education.
President Madison, Superintendent Hoffman, members of the board, and Ms. Avalos. I'm requesting approval of Elk Grove Unified School District Annual Service Delivery Budget Plan for the Special Education Department.
Yeah, can you just go through that one more time? I don't think everybody heard.
I'm requesting the board's approval of Elk Grove Unified School District's Annual Service Delivery Budget Plan for the Special Education Department. And I
Oh.
forget how short I am, sorry.
Okay. All right. Are there any comments from the board before we move this at all? Okay. Okay, I call for a motion to approve the 2019-20 Elk Grove Unified School District Annual Service Delivery Budget Plan for special education.
So moved?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board members' reports. Do we have any? Ms. Chavez Espinoza.
I can't remember if I spoke to this last time, but the legislative committee, I don't know what the official name is, but the legislative subcommittee of the board met, and staff has provided us with a draft of language that would be added to our board handbook, correct? To our board governance handbook with respect to our protocols and our processes for taking positions and opining on legislation and issues of that nature. So the subcommittee will review that and come back to the full board with the recommendation.
Was there, the subcommittee, was everybody in attendance?
The last time, yes, we've only had one meeting, I believe. Yeah. Oh. Oh, sorry, 2 of the 3.
Who was in attendance?
Ms. Singh Allen, Ms. Chavez Espinoza, Mr. Perez was not
Was
in
absent.
attendance.
Okay. Mr. Perez, were you aware of the meeting?
Take that as a no.
He's gone. Okay. Okay, anybody, any? go
I
ahead.
I had attended the CSBA California School Board Association. We had a retreat for 4 of our directors, and so we will be taking some things back to our other main meeting that will be in September, a directors meeting. But we're doing some planning as well as a side note for the CSBA, the conference that will be coming up in December. We, on another committee I'm on, submitted a proposal and it was accepted. So we'll be presenting on Native American suspension rates. So looking forward to that as well. Just wanted to give an update on some of the work we're doing and in the future as well.
Good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Crystal? It'll be great to have the data. Is CSBA looking at any initiatives with respect to our Native American children?
Not that I'm aware of quite yet. So I know they were asking, the magazine had reached out to me as well. We're waiting actually for the finalized survey and the study that was done on some of the school districts because the author hasn't finalized and published that piece yet. So in September is the timeline I was told for the article that will be submitted. And then I'm hoping that we can start bringing some different awareness. And then the goal is presenting at the conference to give some strategies and ways and success stories of different districts that might help the Native student population suspension rates.
Okay, well, it's good to hear that they recognize that those students exist.
Yes,
That's
very
very
much so.
good. Okay, we have other items on the floor. Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 19:20 hours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Way to go.
1920.
Yeah. Yeah, because he just cares about him.
But that's why I wanted to.
Yeah, that was good. He doesn't attend any of the committee meetings.
Yeah, you just didn't show up.
But he's on the committee.